All right, we'll get started here. Good evening. Welcome to our 2024-2025 super exciting activities code meeting. My name is Josh Macy. Those of you that don't know, I'm the AD here. You can see my email up there if you ever need to get a hold of me. This will be the boring part of the evening. We'll try to get through it as quick as possible and be as informational as possible with this. If you want to follow along with the presentation, there is a QR code up there. But again, we'll try to be quick, and then after this presentation at 7 p.m., Master Official Nick Bean is going to come in here and talk to parents. Meanwhile, all of our athletes will go to the stage gym and talk with some of our alumni and have a question and answer session with them. A lot of our athletes develop some questions for them, and we'll have a kind of informal question and answer session about what made them successful in high school and beyond. And hopefully get our students some motivation and some knowledge moving forward for this school year. First thing, in order to be eligible for athletics, make sure that you have all of your paperwork in. If you're not sure on where to find it, there's a couple different places you can find our registration forms. One is on our Luck Athletics site, and one is on our school website. So there's a couple different places you can find those. Next, what are we going to talk about with this meeting? We're going to talk about expectations of our athletes, and what they need to do to be eligible, to be able to compete in activities for the 2024-2025 school year. We'll go over eligibility requirements to be able to compete. We'll go over what code violations are and the consequences for those code violations. We have two different types. We have academic and behavioral. Hopefully we don't have to deal with too much of that. Our students in the past have been actually very good. So we haven't had to deal with that until in the past. We'll talk about playing time in middle school, high school athletics, the benefits of multi-sport athletes, a couple of WIAA rules and expectations that need to be talked about because some common things that get some players in trouble. We'll intro our coaches and our athletic trainer, and we'll talk about our speed and strength training program, where to find schedules and information, and then we'll release everybody after this meeting into the breakout sessions. At Luck School, our mission for the activities department is to provide as many opportunities as possible to get our students involved in our co-curricular activities. We focus on creating opportunities for all of our students to develop their skills through individual instruction, peer interaction, and competition. Luck Activities is connected to the whole student. We're working on academics, social emotional learning, and then physical skills through intentional preparation and planning throughout the school day and season. While winning is not an end in itself, but we do believe that our students' athletes' efforts to be their best will lead them to succeed. So first things first, how does your athlete become eligible to compete during their season? First, you have to make sure you have a physical. Physicals need to be done every other year. Depends on when you had your first physical, 5th or 6th grade, whether you're doing it on odd years or even years. If you ever have a question on, do I need a physical this year or do I not need a physical this year, please don't hesitate to reach out to the main office and they'll be able to help you out with that. On years that you don't need to complete your physical, you need to complete an alternate year card. Again, those are the years opposite of your physical. Emergency cards with emergency information need to be completed once per school year. A concussion form needs to be completed once per school year. And then you need to sign off on the athletic code once per school year also. We do concussion testing, so if somebody has symptoms of concussion, we use the SWAY program for that. Our our athletic trainer will work on that with our students. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. And there are activities fees to go with our activities with. There is a maximum fee if you're involved in multiple things. You don't have to pay for every single thing. There is a max fee to go with that. These must be completed. All of these things must be completed for your child to participate in activities for the season and need to be done in order for your child to participate in practice. And we're going to be pretty strict on that this year, so make sure if you're in a fall activity that you're working on completing those things before that fall activity starts, which is a lot of those sports start in just a few weeks. The activities code, a couple of things with the activities code, understand that participation in activities is a privilege for which every student should be willing to meet the challenges necessary to fulfill those ideals. We divide our activities code into two groups, Group A and Group B. Some of the consequences vary because Group B tends to be all the activities and clubs and that sort of thing. Group A is more athletics. So if you're looking through the activity code, Group A is more athletics, Group B is more activities and clubs. Coaches and advisors, one thing to note, coaches and advisors of individual activities may have more stringent policies that laid out in this code. So just because the code says one thing, doesn't mean that the coach doesn't have more strict policy than that. Academics, there's two possible academic violations. We just started this, I think we started this 2 years ago. So there's two possible violations for academics. One, a student could be failing a class at the end of a semester. The second possible violation would be failing to get a grade up after a grade check. Grade checks happen at 3 weeks. We'll go to the semester one first, but so if somebody's failing at the end of a semester, per failing grade, so per F, they're ineligible for 10% of the season. The WIAA has a policy that if a student fails 2 classes, they're suspended for 20% of the season. So in line with that, ours is a little more strict. They're ineligible for 10% of the season per failing grade. And they must be passing all current classes to regain eligibility. The second possible violation is failing at the end of a 3-week grade check. So we check grades through our activities department every 3 weeks. At the end of a 3-week period, if we check the grades, if a student has a failing grade and is involved in an activity, that student receives a sheet of paper, and you can see it on the back of that activity code, receives a sheet of paper in order to regain eligibility. If that paper is not signed by their teacher in a week saying that the student has caught up and is now passing their class, the student is ineligible to compete in games until that school is passing. That's for high school. Middle school is a little bit different. With middle school, if they're failing at one of those 3-week grade checks, middle schoolers will be spending 30 minutes per practice working on their academics until they're caught up. The second kind of violation we could have is conduct or behavior violations. These include things such as drugs, tobacco, vapes, alcohol, over-the-counter medications, attendance at parties where some of those substances are being consumed. Again, there are some exceptions to that with weddings, graduation parties when you're with your family. Otherwise, if you're attending a party where those substances are being consumed, you're considered to be in violation of the activity code. First violation of those activities is ineligibility for 20% of the season. Second violation is 50%, and 3+ violations is ineligible for 1 full season. If you are ineligible, you're still allowed to participate in practice and attend competitions and are encouraged to do so and may be required to do so by your coaches. And for every year you go without a violation, you move down a level if you had advanced in a violation. Then the other thing that goes with that, we have one that's conduct unbecoming of a student in activities, ineligible for anything that is considered conduct unbecoming. varies depending on the violation that occurred. This could range anywhere from one competition to being suspended indefinitely as deemed appropriate by administration. If a student is out of school suspended, that results in a suspension from any practices or competition on the days that the student serves that suspension. Enforcement and appeal procedures, the code, if you read through that activities code, that lays out the procedures for enforcement or appeal of any code violation. Signing of the activities code, make sure if you didn't do so already, make sure you're turning in a signed copy of the activities code to Mrs. Geving at the registration table. If you haven't already, every student and parent needs to sign the activities code before their student is eligible to participate during the season. Next, we'll introduce some of our head coaches and advisors. Some of them are here, some of them are not. Head coaches, if you are here, give a wave when I introduce you. For fall sports, for football, we have Coach Jack Drake. For volleyball, we have Coach Isabel Jensen. Cross country, we have Coach Marcus Cornelius. And girls golf, we have Coach Chuck Hollicky. Girls tennis, Coach Martinez is not here, but we have Carlos Martinez. For winter sports, we have girls and boys wrestling. Head coach Jake Nichols could not be here with us tonight. Myself for boys basketball. Head coach for girls basketball is Coach Chad Ely. Head coach for hockey is Coach Robert Drake. And then in the spring, head coach for boys baseball, we have Coach Tony Carter. In softball, she couldn't be here tonight, but we have Coach Aaron Hansford. We are currently looking for a boys golf coach, so that is to be determined. For track and field, we have Coach Zach Anderson. Then for some of our clubs and activities, our dance team is coached by Annalise Wright. Pep band and marching band is Emily Frosine. Our leader for drama, and he also does choir. And speech team is Carl Wicklin. FCCLA is Mrs. Renee Gavinsky. And she does NHS also. FFA is Janelle Larson. Spanish club is Tori Gaffney. VAC is James Springsteen. Yearbook is Kendra DeLong. And our school newspaper, we just got a new advisor for our school newspaper. That's Mrs. Kunkel. Athletic training, we are very lucky here at Luck to be able to have a full-time certified athletic trainer on our staff. One of very, very few schools to be able to say that. Athletic trainers are very tough to come by in schools. We see more and more schools that are struggling to find an athletic trainer. We are lucky enough to have Mrs. Karen Hansen on our staff. She's back in the corner. Moving the slides for me. We're lucky enough to have her. She also plans all of our youth athletics, so you probably, if you've had kids in youth athletics, been receiving communication from her for that. And I can't thank her enough for how much she does for our youth sports. But having an athletic trainer and youth sports coordinator on our staff is a very rare thing around here, and we make a lot of other schools jealous when we tell them we have a trainer on our staff. So it's great to have her. Make sure if you are not signed up for Healthy Roster, Healthy Roster is where she communicates about injuries. If a student has an injury, she'll put all of the information of that on there. That's how she can communicate the injury information with you as parents and with the players. So make sure you get signed up for that. And then SWAY, she does our SWAY concussion testing. Our SWAY concussion testing happens every season, or at least once, every student's got to do a baseline at least once a year. So fall sports will be doing it within probably their first week of practice and getting a baseline for their concussion testing. So that way, if there is a head injury throughout the year, we're able to use that baseline for our return to play protocols. Mrs. Hanson will be at most of our middle school and high school athletic home events, so if you need anything during that time, as far as athletic training is concerned, please find her during those. The next thing I would like to talk about is activities communication. Each coach around here should have, at least the ones that we host, should have the Remind app for communication. That's where we would like all parents, athletes, and coaches to be communicating about your sport to whether it's students, parents, anything. All that communication should be happening either through the Remind app or through email. Or phone call can work also. But a few things about communication. 3 types of communication we talked about. Parent-athlete communication. Athletes, it's your responsibility to share info that the coaches give you. So if there are changes to anything, if the coach talks to you about something as far as schedule, that sort of stuff, more than likely the coach should be putting it out in Remind, but it's also the athlete's responsibility to communicate those changes to your parents. The second thing with parents and athlete, have that conversation with your athlete about their aspirations. Are they the same as yours? And have that discussion with them about what are your aspirations? What do you want to get out of this season? What do you want to get out of your athletic career? And then with parents, enjoy the moment and support your athletes. That's number one. This time goes very, very, very fast. So that 2 years or 3 years in middle school and then that 4 years in high school flies by. Make sure you're enjoying the moment with that and supporting each other. Second kind of communication is coach-athlete communication. Our goal as coaches is always to do what's best for the team and make each other better. So with that, in order to make that happen, we need honesty, honest communication back and forth between coaches and athletes, and continuous communication back and forth between coaches and athletes. That's very important. If we're not doing that, we're not giving everything we can to our athletics. So make sure we're continuously in communication. Players, athletes, if you ever have any questions, make sure you're reaching out to your coach. They're always happy to help. The last thing is coach-parent communication. One thing to keep in mind, we want to keep the big picture in mind all the time. What matters in the long run? So make sure we're keeping little picture versus big picture in mind. Athletes should speak to the coach first. If they're having any minor issues, make sure you're encouraging your athlete to speak up to your coach. So make sure that you're encouraging that continuous communication that we talked about between coach and athlete, because that's what makes that relationship the best that it can be. The last thing should be an everybody thing. Coaches, athletes, make sure we're using that 24-hour rule. So after a contest practice, if there's a major issue, unless it's an emergency, please give it 24 hours before communicating with that coach or that parent, or coaches should give that 24 hours before communicating with parents. So make sure we do that. Chain of command stuff, make sure you speak to the coach first if you have a minor issue, and then chain of command is listed there. It goes from coach to me as AD, to the principal as Mr. Harrelson, superintendent Mr. Engel, and then to the school board. But please reach out to the coach first if there's a minor issue. Next, we have talking about pride in our Cardinal culture, because to be honest, playing time, and we'll talk about playing time here, isn't always equal. So it's very important in developing our students. What's your reaction as an athlete when I don't make the team I wanted? Do I quit, or do I give everything I can to the team? and do everything I can to help the team. What's my reaction when the call didn't go my or our way? What's my reaction when the teammate is struggling? Like this, or having positive coach peer parent modeling will allow us to remain at a consistent high level in everything we do, and that is very important to be able to do that. There are many ways to positively contribute to a team and culture aside from playing time. I like to use, being a basketball coach, using basketball as an example. Over the past few years, I've had a few players that haven't played a ton of minutes, but have been huge parts of our team and integral parts of what makes us successful. So there's so many ways, and to be honest, we spend a lot more time in practice together than we do on the court in games. That at times, to me, as a coach, is more important in developing athletes and being able to be successful than that time on the court. A winning culture is created when parents, athletes, and coaches work together to create the best experience possible for our students. A couple of quick notes on playing time. In middle school, everybody should play. That's our motto here, is everybody should get a significant amount of playing time. It's not necessarily going to be completely equal, but everybody should play. There are exceptions to that. Missing practice, behavior issues, effort issues, discipline issues, those can all be exceptions as to why somebody might not be getting the playing time or be getting a lot of playing time. Kind of the same thing at the JV level. Playing time still not equal or is not equal. It kind of just increases from there. Everyone plays most games at the JV level, but those same exceptions apply. At the varsity level, things become a little bit different. Playing time is not guaranteed at the varsity level in our athletics. Playing time depends on a lot of things, including talent, character, chemistry, work ethic. All of those things can go into earning playing time. Coaches are who determines who plays, with a focus on winning along with team and individual growth. A couple of WIA policy things I wanted to touch on before we're done here. If you have any eligibility questions of your athletes, don't be afraid to look on the WIAA site. And there's a lot of info about eligibility. There's a lot of questions and answers about a lot of different things on eligibility. One thing, in order to keep our athletes eligible, we need to be aware of is NIL, name, image, and likeness deals. And if you watch any college sports nowadays, even high school sports, it's becoming a big deal. It just actually got voted on at the WIAA level and shot down, so we aren't able to benefit off of name, image, and likeness yet at the high school level. But it's an important thing that's out there because people do get in trouble for this every once in a while. So athletes, under your name, you may not benefit from your name, image, and likeness directly or indirectly. Nobody may provide endorsement for any company, so an athlete can't say, hey, go eat at this place, because our baseball team eats at this place, or this specific player eats at this place. So that's one thing. Many companies have been reaching out to high school athletes in the area and trying to encourage them, hey, why don't you sell our clothing or become an image for our clothing brand? And it does happen. Make sure we're not doing that, because if we're doing any of that, then we're becoming ineligible to compete in WIAA activities. And it may not seem like that's a big deal, but it does become a big deal if something were to happen, even with local companies putting kids on advertisement, like putting a football player on an advertisement as a football player would be in violation of that. Open gyms, this is another one where people tend to get in trouble a little bit. Students from other schools may not attend any open gyms here in Luck. There are some exceptions to that with like AAU practice, that sort of stuff, with outside organizations using gyms, but any school-sponsored open gyms, athletes from other schools cannot attend those open gyms here. And same thing the other way around. Our athletes cannot go to other schools' open gyms when it's a school-sponsored open gym and compete at those open gyms at those other schools. The exception is with the Luck Frederick Co-op or with any athlete or any athletics that are co-ops, you may participate in open gyms at that school or at any school in the co-op. That's just for that sport. A few miscellaneous things. Busing, make sure students are expected to ride on the bus to any athletic activities with the team. If there's a reason your student will not be able to ride with the team to an athletic activity on the bus or van, if that athletic activity takes a van, if that's the case, please reach out at least 24 hours in advance to let us know, so that way we can approve that you can drive your kid to that practice or game, or to that game, sorry. And then at the end of the night or end of the game, if you are giving your student a ride home, please communicate that and sign out with that coach. So if you're taking your kid home and they're not riding the bus home, make sure you're communicating that to your coach by signing out on the bus sheet. Another thing about transportation, when we have co-op activities, a couple of things with this. When we have co-op practices and games, we will provide transportation to co-op practices. So for our Luck Frederick Co-op anyway, we provide transportation to practice. If we have a coach that's there that is willing to transport home, then sometimes we will provide transportation home from those co-op practices. If we don't have somebody to provide transportation home that's a coach at that activity, the parents are expected to pick up the student from wherever they are practicing. Games, the Luck Frederick Co-op with baseball, softball, cross country, track, they get transported from our school to games and home from games with that. Last thing with that, with Volt Athletics is our speed and strength program. We provide multiple opportunities for students to get in. We actually added an extra week here next week for our summer schedule. We've had weightlifting and speed and strength opportunities every morning and every afternoon. Mornings from 7 to 8:30, afternoons from 4 to 5:30. Students are still welcome to come in for those for the next week, through next Thursday actually. And then fall schedule for out-of-season athletes. This is subject to change, but in the past and as of right now for the fall season, we'll be offering the weight room for anybody who wants to come in and work on their Volt program Monday and Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. and Tuesdays and Fridays from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. In-season athletes, so if you're in your season, you'll be lifting as part of your season with your coach. A couple more communication things. We talked about Remind. Every coach should be using Remind. Make sure if you are not on a Remind for a sport, talk to that coach and see if you can get on that Remind. That's where most communication comes out about athletics. Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, so make sure you're following Luck Cardinal activities on Facebook. We post a lot of stuff on there. Lately, we've been posting our athletes of the week, so make sure you check that out. Game schedules and some other information you can find at luckathletics.com. For the most up-to-date at this moment game schedules, they should be there. All of those are subject to change, of course. And then live stream. I encourage you all to use our live stream link at luckathletics.com. It links to YouTube. It's a great place where you can just go there. Every single time we have a home, middle school, high school, JV, varsity, doesn't matter, event, go to luckathletics.com/livestream and you can find our events, our live streams of our events there. Again, that's any middle school or high school athletic event. can be found on that live stream. Lastly, thank you for all of your support of the Luck Activities program. Parents, please stick around in this gym as we have a presentation from Master Official Dick Bean coming up. Students, if you could, in a minute, make your way to the stage gym for a discussion with our alumni panel. We'll be finished around 7:30, and parents and students can meet each other then and take off. Thank you guys for a great night. Make sure you hand in any completed paperwork at the registration table. And make sure you see the Booster Club, buy some gear from them, get some snacks. They're always looking for new people to help out.